Hey everyone, Ripley with Bob's Watches. Today we're talking all about Rolex and Mercedes hands and why the world's most famous luxury manufacturer chooses to include this unique design detail on so many of its models. Also, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on our latest video content. If you own a Rolex sports watch like a Submariner, Explorer, or GMT Master, there's a fairly good chance that if you look down, you'll see a tiny Mercedes Benz logo sitting inside its hour hand. This has been the case for more than half a century, and Rolex's use of Mercedes hands dates all the way back to the mid-1950s, although some watches that are even older than that can be found with slight variations of this now iconic handset. However, why does Rolex use Mercedes hands, and more importantly, what does it mean? One of the more common and even slightly plausible myths about Rolex's Mercedes hand is that it's actually a three-pointed star, with each point representing a different environment that its sports watches were intended to conquer: land, sea, and air. This is the case for the actual Mercedes-Benz logo, where each of the star's 3 points represents a different method of transportation. However, it's not likely that Rolex chose this shape for the same reason. You'll find some vintage Rolex models with Mercedes hands that predate the launch of its purpose-built divers and pilots watches, yet Mercedes hands were not included on the very earliest iterations of the Submariner, so it's rather unlikely that this symbolism was the reasoning behind the choice in hand shape. From here, the theories about Mercedes hands only get more outlandish, and one of the most common yet hilariously inaccurate myths is that Mercedes hands are Rolex's way of honoring Mercedes Gleets. Now, everyone knows that Mercedes Gleets was more or less Rolex's first brand ambassador, and her swim across the English Channel was how Rolex proved itself to the world that its oyster case was truly water resistant. While Mercedes Gleets is an important part of Rolex's history, and the brand continues to use her name among its various marketing materials to this day, the key problem with this theory is that Mercedes Gleets and Mercedes Benz are two entirely different entities. Other than both having Mercedes as part of their name, the British swimmer and the German automotive manufacturer literally have nothing to do with one another. It makes zero sense for Rolex to make its hour hand look like the logo of a different company for the sole purpose of being an incredibly roundabout way of paying tribute to the famous English swimmer. There are also some who think that the Mercedes hand was Hans Wilsdorf's way of paying tribute to his home country of Germany. Again, this is simply due to its resemblance to the Mercedes-Benz logo, which is a famous German company. This would be an even more roundabout tribute than the Mercedes Gleets myth, but what makes this theory even more unlikely is that Wilsdorf was hardly a symbol of German national pride. While he was born in Bavaria, Wilsdorf really considered London to be his home, and he openly supported the Allies during World War II. He even personally oversaw an effort to replace the watches of captured POWs after theirs had been confiscated, and given that Rolex's use of Mercedes hands really took off during the 1950s, the decade immediately following the war, it's near impossible that Wilsdorf would put a tribute to Germany on the dials of his company's watches. So, why do Rolex sports watches actually use Mercedes hands? As always, the truth is far less interesting than fantasy, and although Rolex will never confirm or deny any of the various myths, the actual reasoning behind Mercedes hands is more than likely due to their functionality. Luminous hands are kind of built like windows, where there's a metal frame with an open space inside. However, rather than being filled with glass, the open space on a Rolex hand is occupied by luminous paint. Therefore, the larger the open space, the more fragile it'll be, just like a window. The sections that the Mercedes star makes in this open space results in a more stable area to help support the lume. You could divide this space into a different number of sections, although it's likely that the 3 sections created by the Mercedes hand strikes a nice balance where the luminous material has enough support, yet there's still a large enough space for optimum visibility. With all of that in mind, Rolex's Mercedes hands are not an entirely original design, and it's very likely that they're the natural evolution of an earlier but similar style of hands known as Cathedral Hands. Cathedral hands can be found in a wide variety of timepieces from different manufacturers that significantly predate Rolex's own Mercedes hands. It is very possible that a Cathedral hand set was altered for legibility purposes, and in doing so, the Mercedes hand was born. Now, Rolex will never likely confirm or deny any of these theories, but the fact remains that the Mercedes hour hand is a cornerstone feature among countless Rolex sports watches, and its practical yet visually appealing design is spread throughout the entire watch industry. Thanks for watching our video on why Rolex uses Mercedes hands. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on our latest video content.